Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. The gate jams my shoulder and I barrel through. Water slaps my shins as I hit the deck. She floats face down, small and terribly still. I grab her wrist and dive under, no time to think. I roll her over and haul her to the ledge. Her lips do not move, her chest stays locked. I lace my fingers and press hard, counting aloud. I'm Evan, 19, and I am not stopping tonight. Call emergency now, my voice cracks but holds. Behind me she stumbles, the phone clatters once. I keep compressions, elbows locked, rhythm brutal. The numbers march and my arms burn anyway. The phone ends up near my knee on speaker. An operator asks for our address with clipped patience. I spit it out and keep the count steady. Keep going, she repeats, and I do because stopping kills. Tell your father I tried, the whisper brushes my ear. Her hands hover, then drop to her sides. I push air into my sister and watch her chest resist. The operator asks for a pulse I cannot find. A siren rises somewhere close, thin at first. I scan the yard for anything wrong while pumping. The gate hangs ajar with the latch turned stupid. I stare one beat too long and force my focus back. Ambulance on the way, the voice stays calm and narrow. I count through the next cycle and breathe for her. Water pools beneath us and time feels rubbery. Any change, the operator asks, and my throat closes. My stepmom edges near and reaches for my shoulder. I shrug her off and seal another breath. Back up, I say, and she backs up 2 steps. Her jaw works like she's chewing words she won't use. Sirens flood the street and flashes strobe the fence. Boots pound the path and gloves snap around wrists. They slide me aside and take over without ceremony. One medic nods at me to keep answering or break. They ask how long and I give the worst guess. They ask who was watching and the air thins. I look at the open gate again and hate it. A medic wipes his brow and says clear, then waits. A thin beep answers and then flatlines again. They work fast and talk in short clipped bursts. My stepmom presses knuckles to her mouth and trembles. I anchor my hands to the deck and do not move. They load her onto the gurney and roll away hard. I stand and almost follow, legs shaking and stubborn. The operator disconnects with a soft mechanical click. My stepmom leans in and whispers, "Get over it," then flinches. I jog beside the stretcher and match their pace. A gloved hand blocks me at the doorway. Family waits over there, the nurse points without slowing. I stop because rules feel safer than collapse. She reaches my elbow before I sit. We need one story, her breath rides the words. I was right there the entire time, her nails graze my sleeve. I stare at her hand until it retreats. A clerk pushes a clipboard toward me. Time discovered, who initiated CPR, any substances present. I fill blanks with careful numbers and plain words. My stomach flips when she hovers again, listening hard. "Do not tell him I left," she whispers. Her smile shows up late and leaves early. I fold the form and keep my mouth shut. A buzzer cracks the air past the doors. An officer steps in and scans the room. He finds me by the damp shirt and ash face. "Walk with me," his tone leaves no exits. My legs obey because truth needs distance. We stand near vending machines that hum impatiently. He asks who was present and for how long. I answer in short beats with no decoration. He watches my hands, not my eyes, and waits. Any cameras at home, the question lands softly. I blink because I had not considered that gap. Maybe the doorbell, it sounds like a guess. He nods like he already knew more. She approaches with fast steps and a bright voice. "Officer, please, can I sit with my family?" She reaches for my shoulder and misses by inches. He steps between us and asks for a statement. Her mouth forms sentences that never settle. Everything happens so fast, her knuckles tap her purse. I screamed for help. She dabs an eye and inhales sharply. I count 3 contradictions before he finishes his page. My phone vibrates with a notification from home. Garage motion detected at 4:13 p.m. Another ping stacks under it from the back door. I silence the screen and feel heat climb. A doctor appears with clipped focus and short strides. We did everything we could, the words land heavy. He waits for a reaction and gets breathing instead. Someone will talk with you about next steps. She grabs my arm and tries to fold into me. I peel her off and keep my spine straight. We are not done, I hear myself say slowly. Her gaze hardens for half a second. A hospital advocate leads us to a small room. She lays tissues on the table and closes the door. I need each of you to tell me separately. I choose to go first because silence helps her. I describe actions, not feelings, and keep the sequence strict. I mention the phone on speaker and the count. I key at my voice level enough to trust. The advocate writes fast and nods me onward. Inside the hallway, a janitor carts a clear bag. Inside lies a tiny bracelet with our last name. The sight hits like an open elevator shaft. I step aside and hold onto the wall. Dad arrives with wind-burned cheeks and a stiff walk. He does not look at her at first. Is she gone? His voice sounds scraped and narrow. I answer with a nod I cannot swallow. She launches into a version that curves around responsibility. I never turned away, her hand lifts like a signal. I yelled for him to help, she gestures toward me. Dad's eyes flick between us like a metronome ready to break. He turns to me and waits for the essential line. I choose the cleanest sentence and deliver it slowly. I found her alone, the word alone hangs in place. His jaw tightens and stays there like a clamp. An orderly appears with a property envelope. Collectibles and personal effects, he looks apologetic. Inside rests a damp scrunchie and a tiny ring. She reaches too quickly and almost tears the seal. The officer re-enters with a printed consent form. Permission to review home footage and devices. Dad signs without blinking and hands me the pen. I add my name with deliberate pressure while she watches. She leans close enough to fog the paper. We can handle this privately, her voice drops 3 tones. Families survive if they stay united, her fingers steady. I slide the form back to the officer and breathe. The advocate returns with 2 detectives behind her. They ask for clothing changes and time stamps. One notes a faint citrus scent and writes a mark. I follow his eyes to the smear on her wrist. He bags the scrunchie like it might start talking. She laughs once and calls the process extreme. No one joins the laugh because it lands wrong. I feel something lock into place. The officer thanks us and steps away with evidence. Dad sinks into a chair and finally looks at me. Do we need a lawyer? His voice barely chooses the words. I nod once because skipping counsel is how people drown. A nurse opens the door and asks for identification. We follow her down a tight corridor in silence. She lifts a sheet and gives us exactly 1 minute. I place my palm on the blanket and promise more. Back in the waiting area, she corners me again. Delete the camera app, her teeth barely part. Her hand shakes while she tries to smile. I step around her and head for the officer. Can you escort us home? My voice does not waver. He looks at our faces and checks his watch. We can do a welfare check on arrival. I nod because the house holds answers and traps. She whispers my name as we head for the exit. I know what you think, the words try to soften. We need to grieve, not hunt, her eyes shine hard. I keep walking because grief without truth rots everything. I unlock the door and wave the patrol inside. The hallway smells like cleaner, sharp enough to sting. A chime pings from the panel and logs our entry. I head straight to the console because time matters. Power up the cameras, the officer stands behind me. The system loads with a slow wheel that taunts. I open today's folder and pick the earliest alert. A thumbnail shows the patio with the gate ajar. I expand the clip and scrub to mid-afternoon. She crosses the frame talking into her phone. Her wrist lifts near the latch and lingers too long. A thin band appears where the lock should rest. I pause and count the seconds between gestures. A notification overlays the image and flashes twice. Gate open stays on screen until it times out. She turns away and music licks through the speakers. Keep going, the officer folds his arms and waits. I jump forward to the next trigger and hit play. The patio empties while the warning blinks again. The screen records silence while the timer climbs. Another clip shows the kitchen with her reflection. She pours a drink and checks her screen. Her face brightens at a message I cannot see. She raises the glass and steps out of frame. I switch cameras to the side yard angle. A courier drops a package and snaps a photo. The timestamp lands inside the window we care about. Proof without sympathy, sitting in a neat rectangle. Dad drifts toward the door and stops short. He watches the paused image with a clenched jaw. Back it up 1 minute, his voice has gravel. I rewind until the lock fills the screen. A small loop stretches the latch and holds it crooked. I take a still and print a copy for the file. The machine spits paper while my hands shake. The officer bags it as a physical exhibit. I open the audio track and boost the pickup. A tone drones from the safety alarm by the pool. It pulses every few seconds and never gets acknowledged. The noise digs under my skin until I mute it. Pull app logs, he taps the counter with 2 fingers. I open the account and pull the event history. Multiple warnings show as DISM. Ist on her profile. Each has a second line that reads ignored by user. He notes times and asks for my phone. I forward the reports and attach the stills. Dad signs a quick consent on the tablet. The room hums like a hard question left hanging. Footsteps echo from the hallway and she appears. Her eyes dart to the printer and then me. We should rest, she keeps her voice low and warm. The officer steps between us and nods at the screen. I advance to the final clip on the timeline. The patio stands empty while the alarm keeps pulsing. A shadow crosses the window and disappears quickly. My ribs feel tight and I do not breathe. Any neighbors with coverage, his tone stays even. I point to the fence line and the side gate. They have a camera facing the yard from above. He calls dispatch and asks for permission to pull it. I open the smart lock records for the back door. The chart shows opened and left unsecured at 401. Manual override appears with her user key. I capture it before the screen times out again. Dad moves to the sink and turns the faucet. He rinses his wrists like he is scrubbing memory. Water hammers the steel for a long second. He shuts it off and nods at the laptop. We hear a knock and the neighbor steps in carefully. She holds a tablet and an anxious breath. I have footage if it helps, she keeps her eyes down. The officer invites her to the table with a gentle gesture. We load her file and fast forward through lawn chatter. A clear shot frames the patio and our gate. She reappears on camera with her phone on speaker. A voice buzzes through, laughing at something careless. Stop there, I zoom into the corner by the latch. The loop is visible and stretched hard. She places her glass on the rail for balance. Her free hand tests the gate like a shortcut. Dad looks at her and then away. His fingers curl around the chair and do not loosen. The neighbor swallows and reaches for a tissue. No one moves to comfort her because we need truth. The officer asks for a copy and she nods. He labels it with the time and address. I watch his pen scratch the case number. Ink feels heavier than any speech. She clears her throat and tries a new approach. We all made mistakes today, her chin lifts slightly. We should just support each other now, her smile wobbles. The officer's eyebrow twitches like a warning light. I reopen my texts and scroll to earlier messages. A reminder from her to watch the house pops up. Another promises she would be back soon. I screen capture both and send them to the folder. Dispatch pings the officer with a short update. The coroner has scheduled an intake review tonight. He asks if we want to add statements right now. Dad answers with a single nod that ends conversation. I seal the loop and place it on the counter. It waits like a cheap trap that finally confessed. I bag it and write the minute and camera code. Evidence that breathes without permission, box tight. She reaches for the bag and stops halfway. Her hand trembles and then finds her pocket. We can talk tomorrow, she forces a softer tone. I power down the console because the night will not. I start the car and check the mirrors twice. He buckles in with slow hands and a stiff neck. A patrol tail follows us to the station without chatter. My nerves hold steady until the doors slide open. A detective waves us into a bland room and sits. He places a recorder on the table and nods once. Walk me through the home footage you recovered. I keep the order tight because confusion helps liars. He listens, then asks about app permissions and profiles. I unlock my phone and hand it across. He studies the activity log, then circles 3 timestamps. Each alert was cleared by her login, interesting. She enters with a lawyer and a bright blazer. Her smile clicks on like a switch for strangers. We're here voluntarily, the attorney arranges papers neatly. I feel my jaw clench as the detective hits record. He starts neutral and keeps questions narrow. Who adjusted the yard door fail-safe today? Her gaze slides sideways and returns to center. I don't recall, she says, and the lawyer watches me. The detective pivots to devices and routines. Any smartwatch is syncing heart data around that window. I pull mine off and set it down. He notes a spike in exertion and looks up. That was compressions, my voice lands flat and cold. And yours, he asks, turning to her wrist. She pretends to check an empty arm and shrugs. I left it upstairs, she tries, and the lawyer nods. A tech steps in and hands over fresh printouts. Door chime silenced at 3:59 by user 2. He points to the identifier labeled with her initials. The attorney requests a copy and whispers under his breath. Dad leans forward with both elbows and breathes once. Is this criminal? He asks without any emphasis. Too early, the detective answers, then underlines a line. Negligence needs PR. UFA foreseeability, we're getting close. I pull up the neighbor's clip on a tablet. He watches the short sequence with careful attention. Freeze on the hinge, his finger taps the screen. He marks the elastic band and writes down timing. She sits still while her lawyer studies his nails. We dispute the accuracy of that angle. The detective doesn't blink and asks about earlier calls. I forward texts and lock my screen with a click. A coroner liaison knocks and slides in briskly. Preliminary shows drowning only, no other trauma. She glances at the attorney and then at me. Full panel pending, she adds, leaving the door ajar. The lawyer stands and smooths his tie. My client is grieving, not avoiding responsibility. He collects his folder and steers her toward the hall. The detective lets them go because rushing ruins cases. When they clear the threshold, he turns to me. Civil counsel will move faster than we can. He jots two names on a sticky note and pushes it over. Document everything, he says, and his eyes harden. On the way out, my phone buzzes again. A new message from her with a careful tone. We should align statements before the memorial, please. I save it to a secure folder and keep walking. Outside, a breeze carries cleanser from the lobby. It triggers a thought I tried to ignore earlier. That citrus sting wasn't from routine mopping at home. I make a note to ask for residue testing. We drive to our insurance agent in silence. He checks the policy and swallows once. Any safety violations void coverage, he mutters thoughtfully. He prints the clause and highlights the risk in yellow. Back home, I open the smart speaker history. A voice command disabled alerts 2 minutes before trouble. The transcript shows her profile and a confirmation chime. I email the export to the detective with one line. A soft knock rattles the frame and I freeze. Child Services stands on the porch with clipped smiles. Routine wellness check, the lead explains with practice calm. Dad invites them in and I feel anger coil. They walk the perimeter and test every lock. They ask me to demonstrate the pool alarm sequence. I show the bypass steps and their notes grow longer. Who changed this setting, they ask, looking straight at me. She had access, I answer, keeping the tone dry. They glance at each other and mark another box. We'll file a report for the record, the lead says. I watch the pen move like a clock with teeth. After they leave, my phone lights again immediately. Her lawyer emails a proposal labeled Family Understanding. No admissions, mutual support, shared public message. I forward it to Dad and type one word, no. He nods once, then reaches for the kettle. His hand steady as he pours and listens. We fight clean, he says, eyes on the counter. I agree because vengeance without structure eats you. I open a blank document and assemble a timeline. Every ping, every clip, every command in sequence. No adjectives, just time and action and source. By midnight, the pattern speaks without my voice. A final text lands from her past midnight. Let it go or you'll wreck this family. My reply takes 3 measured breaths to write. This family broke the second you walked away. I walk into the firm and slide the drive across. The associate clicks through each file with tight focus. Negligence plus reckless disregard, she murmurs, then nods once. We file today and move for preservation, agreed. I sign retainer pages and initial the exhibits. She stamps the packet and buzzes a runner. Service tonight, she promises, eyes on the clock. I breathe out because action beats panic. Outside, my phone lights with a new volley. Her number floods the screen with urgent lines. Stop this, think of your father, think of me. I archive everything and capture a backup immediately. We meet the process server at the curb. He checks names, matches the photo, adjusts his cap. I've got a plan for a clean serve. I point him toward her gym and step back. At home, I spread documents across the table. Dad scans every page without blinking or sighing. The facts carry this, he says, voice steady. He initials his parts and sets down the pen. A text arrives from an unknown contact quickly. Representing her, let's discuss resolution before escalation. I forward it to counsel and mute the thread. No side conversations, not with stakes like this. Evening falls and the server pings me once. Completed, witness present, she accepted and walked away. He attaches a photo of the acknowledgement slip. My chest loosens, then tightens again with what follows. Her reply lands 2 minutes later like a dare. You're destroying your family for attention. Another message threatens to expose private things. I forward both to our attorney and save screenshots. The firm schedules emergency depositions for morning. We gather in a conference room with glass walls. Lights on. Her counsel arrives with a cool smile and folders. I keep my eyes on the recorder's red dot. My attorney opens with short questions and firm pacing. Who disabled pool safeguards that afternoon? Her lawyer objects to form and stares at me. She answers, not me, then drums a fingernail lightly. We introduce the device logs with authenticated signatures. The technician confirms user identifiers and time stamps. Her attorney shifts in his chair and clears his throat. She studies the tabletop and asks for water. Next, we play the neighbor's angle after stipulations. The image freezes on the hinge and band. Silence stretches until the compressor kicks on somewhere. Proceed, the court reporter says, eyes never lifting. My turn comes and I hold the room. I recount sequence, not feelings, in clipped lines. I verify each exhibit, then describe the CPR cadence. Her attorney tries to rattle me and fails. A mediator pokes in with a proposed meeting. Settle now and spare yourselves a trial, he urges. He slides a sheet with numbers across the table. I push it back because the wording dodges responsibility. She corners me by the elevator between sessions. End this, she whispers, breath shallow and quick. You'll regret destroying what's left, her jaw tightens. I press the call button and keep my eyes forward. Back inside, our counsel files a motion to compel. They want her phone, watch, and home speaker history. Her lawyer protests burden and privacy with practiced cadence. The judge on call grants partial access without hesitation. We exit into the hallway buzzing with printers. Dad leans against the wall and meets my eyes. We hold the line, he says, then straightens. I nod once because the alternative eats you alive. That night, a burner number rings twice and stops. A voicemail follows with a low warning. Drop the suit or we'll bury you in court. I save it, then send it to the detective immediately. Morning brings a welfare check request from her attorney. He alleges harassment through legal filings and messages. 2 officers appear, ask routine questions, review logs. They leave satisfied but note the complaint for record. Our expert arrives with a small kit and credentials. He swabs residue from the deck and rail. Solvent traces consistent with slick grip, he notes. He bags samples and requests the blender filter next. The lab courier collects items with chain of custody forms. He verifies signatures and seals each container. The expert promises a rush analysis by Friday. I brace because facts sharpen knives and clean wounds. By noon, media sniff around the story online. Her statement frames me as vindictive and unstable. I send our prepared line to the reporter quickly. Grieving and seeking accountability, no further comment. The mediator returns with a revised proposal mid-afternoon. More money, mandatory counseling, a confidentiality clause. Still no acknowledgement of fault anywhere on paper. I circle the clause and write one word, unacceptable. She storms into the lobby with her lawyer trailing. You want me in handcuffs, she snaps, eyes hot. Say the word, she adds, chin lifted hard. I answer with nothing, which hurts more. The judge schedules an early conference for next week. Discovery remains open and deadlines accelerate. Our attorney lines up depositions for the trainer and courier. Each name tightens the net one careful notch. At home, I print a clean chronology for Dad. We practice answers for hostile questions aloud. He stumbles once, then finds a steady rhythm. Rehearsal steadies grief, but it also fuels resolve. A final text lands from her close to midnight. Get over it or I will bury you. 3 dots appear, vanish, then nothing else follows. I set the phone face down and let rage breathe. The lab calls at dawn with clipped certainty. Residue on the railing matches a grip additive. Traces on her bracelet match the same compound. Chain of custody holds Klein and the room tilts. We rush to court on the emergency calendar. The judge skims findings and lifts an eyebrow. Defense asks for time and gets 9 minutes. Our counsel slides sanctions across the bench like knives. A new offer appears with careful italics and hedges. Payment, therapy, silence, charity, everything but fault. I push it back with one finger and wait. The judge watches without blinking and marks the clock. Stipulate to negligent acts on the record. Our attorney names it slowly so no one forgets. Defense whispers, then asks for conditional wording. The judge shakes his head once and leans forward. In the hallway, she corners me near the elevators. "You win nothing if you ruin me," she hisses. Her hand hovers inches from my chest and falters. I press the button and stare at the floor numbers. Back inside, the tech presents smartwatch extraction. Her timeline shows a workout ping during the window. Alerts from home hit her wrist and get dismissed. Deal. She blinks hard while her lawyer tightens his jaw. Insurance confirms policy void for safety tampering. Coverage gone, assets exposed, leverage flips immediately. Defense pales and asks for 5 quiet minutes. The judge grants 3 and caps it with fines. They return with a sheet that finally names fault. Negligent conduct resulting in preventable death, it reads. No euphemisms, no soft edges, signed and dated. The judge accepts and sets the civil penalty hearing. I read my statement in a voice that does not shake. I list actions, not grief, because facts punish harder. I ask for a safety seminar in her name. The judge nods and writes the order with care. She faces forward and starts the required apology. No tears, no theatrics, only halting acknowledgement. Each sentence lands like a dull hammer on steel. She finishes and the room stays silent on purpose. We step outside into air that finally feels honest. Dad grips my shoulder once and releases. Home, he says, and it sounds like a choice. I nod because choices define us now. At the house, I remove the temporary tie. A locksmith replaces hardware and tests the failsafe twice. I set the alarm to loud and constant. No bypass, no exceptions, no excuses, ever. That evening, the charity coordinator calls with logistics. They want a video for the safety campaign. I agree and keep it short and practical. No names, only steps, only warnings, only urgency. Her last message arrives an hour later without punctuation. You took everything, now be satisfied, blinks on my screen. I block the number and mail her spare key. The envelope drops and echoes in the box. At the memorial, I speak for exactly 1 minute. I promise vigilance, I promise education, I promise follow-through. I float a white ribbon on the still water. It drifts toward the deep end and stops, watching. Night falls and the house settles into new rules. I walk the perimeter and test every sensor again. Each chime confirms a boundary I refuse to cross. I lock the door and let the quiet stand.